Ah, the Sonata. Most people have heard of it, albeit as the name of a car. I'm the classical nerd, and today we're talking about sonata form. First off, let's emphasize the fact that there is a difference between a sonata and sonata form. In the classical era, sonatas were 3 or 4 movement pieces for solo piano or a melody instrument and piano. The first movement was usually in a form that came to be known as sonata form. The composers of great classical era sonatas did not consider their first movements to be in sonata form. Surprisingly, they didn't actually have a name for it. Franz Joseph Haydn was the great pioneer of everything in the classical era, and he and his followers did not consider sonata form to be a form, inasmuch as simply a matter of aesthetic proportion. It was a form that allowed for equal parts balance and invention. They didn't even think about naming it. It was just so natural for them to express the musical ideas in this very structured form. Because they were part of sonatas, later musicologists who needed a name for this form they saw over and over looked at the title, saw sonata, and said, "Hey, that's sonata form." So what is sonata form? To demonstrate, let's go ahead and write one. Let's pick a key. Let's say we're in G major. The first section is something called the Exposition. This lays out the themes that the composer will use for the rest of the movement. Some of the more daring composers used as many as 4 themes, but we'll just stick with 2 for now. 2 is a fairly common standard. So anyway, let's say we're in G major. Your first theme is going to be in G major, and your second theme isn't going to be in G major. It's going to be in a key that's related to G major, usually 1 sharp more. This, if you know your scale degrees, is known as the dominant. In G major, the dominant is D major, and generally speaking, for sonatas in G major, your second theme is going to be in D major. Once you've stated a theme in G major and a theme in D major, you have completed your exposition. And then you repeat that whole thing, because you're supposed to get these themes firmly in your head before you go on. After the exposition comes the development. Here in the development, you're a lot free to do whatever you want with these themes. You can play around with them, you can go to whatever crazy keys you want to. Basically, just make sure they're all related to the themes you stated in the exposition. Development sections can make or break a composer. Beethoven, for instance, wasn't known as a keen melodist, but he sure as heck could write a development section, and that's where he got most of his fame. And after the development, you have something called the Recapitulation, where the themes from the exposition return, except instead of being in 2 keys, they're going to be in just 1 key. We're back in the home key of G major, and then that's where the piece ends. After you're finished restating these themes, sometimes it's also nice to have a bit of a coda at the end, which is just a little ending section that isn't really part of the form. It just sort of wraps things up. It's like putting a bow on top of a present. So that's a sonata. Composers have been using these for years as a way of simply structuring their ideas, laying things out, playing with them, and then bringing them back again at the very end. Its strict use has long fallen out of favor, but the idea of formally structuring musical ideas is one that has fascinated and frustrated composers ever since.